Welcome everybody to Totally Dacob. Today we're going to review Chucky, the TV series, Season 1, Episode 3. Even though it's Episode 3, the whole concept is duality, duality, duality. There's the good and the evil, the intentions and the non-intentions. One person being exchanged for another person. This is one of the reasons why we're having crimson background. Crimson is kind of a color of duality as well. We are counting down to Halloween on my channel, so hence the attire and the merch. By the way, the Super Dacob merch, if you wish to get it, you still have time until the 31st of October, then it's gone for good. It is limited edition for 2021. Chucky, Season 1, Episode 3. Let me tell you, we start off right where we ended with Episode 2. And that is in Jake's new bedroom, which looks like the Red Room in Twin Peaks. So we got that duality between Jake being conflicted by the dweller on his threshold, being himself. He's tormented by Chucky, making him believe more and more that he should become a killer. Chucky is now in the bedroom with Jake, talking to Jake and telling him, hey, you gotta kill Lexi. Lexi was so mean to you. She was a bully to you. She dressed up as your father while he was being electrocuted in the cellar for Halloween. In front of everybody at the party, she dressed up like your dying dad in front of you and mocked you. She deserves to die. Jake agrees that he hates her, but you see that Jake is still conflicted between, does he really? Sure, he took the knife at the end of Episode 2 and was ready to kill, but of course now in Episode 3 he's questioning things again. Amongst the things he questions, he asks Chucky something. Chucky, come here, baby. We got the duality, right? We got the good guy. In fact, you see Don Mancini here telling us that he's a good guy when in reality we know he's possessed by Charles Lee Ray, the serial murderer. So we are in the city of Hackensack. Of course, the duality of that name. Funny, but at the same time serious, because in the 60s, there was a terrible serial killer on the loose terrorizing Hackensack, making... Well, Hackensack is also Devon's podcast, so he kind of calls it hack and slash, I think he calls it too. But anyway, the killer back in the day was not Charles Lee Ray. Charles Lee Ray in the 60s was a kid. He was an infant, you know. However, Jake asks Chucky, hey, how did you become who you are? And here we have a little Easter egg that Don Mancini, the creator of Chucky, kind of throws in, because Chucky starts explaining and saying, hey, you know, I was, the whole voodoo shtick, I entered into another person's body, but I started the whole doll thing. That was my thing, possessing a doll's body. And Jake blocks him immediately, says, no, I don't want to know that. I want to know how you became a killer. And this is something fascinating because Don Mancini was, you know, allegedly has been quoted to have said that he was not really into the whole voodoo aspect of Chucky. He had a whole other idea of Chucky, how he is evil, how he is alive, and the whole story. But the film industry wanted it differently. The people who were, you know, budgeting and financing the project, the producers said, no, we want you to do this other storyline instead. So Don Mancini kind of dealt with it, but he kind of threw a little moment in there when, you know, Jake asks Chucky about, like, how did you become like this? And then Chucky kind of starts doing the voodoo talk, and Jake is like, I don't want to know that. So it's almost as if Don Mancini was talking through Jake in that moment, saying, forget about that. I want really more substantial stuff, which is so cool. And I'm glad that they're going there. And I'm also glad that Chucky is not obsessed with trying to leave his doll body and possess a human body. And I'm happy that the whole voodoo shtick is kind of being underplayed because it was getting lame. So Chucky says, oh, okay, you want to know how I became a killer. So at the beginning of the episode, here's another point of duality we're going to be seeing. He starts explaining how you have to choose how to kill, when to kill, who to kill. It has to be an intimate choice. You have to choose the right moment when you're alone with that person. The timing is of the essence, and it has to be almost a sort of a relationship, an intimate moment. And just like in the other episodes, we start with flashbacks, but then they're interrupted, and then we get the end of the flashback at the end of the episode. So Chucky doesn't get to finish his story about how he became who he was. Instead, we have a cut to another scene. And that other scene is, well, at this point, Jake is back in school. He is on a mission. Before we get to the mission, subscribe to my channel, thumb up this video if you haven't already. Comment down below if you're watching Chucky and what you think about it. I'm filming this live, so I have my co-chatters in the chats. Devon's mom. Devon is kind of the love interest of Jake. Jake is interested in Devon, but Devon's mom Devon's mom is also the police officer in charge of investigating all of the deaths that have been happening in the city. And she has a sneaky suspicion that Jake has something to do with it, because no matter where Jake goes, death seems to follow. So she goes to Jake's teacher in school and asks her about Jake and tells her that she's worried because she feels like something is wrong with Jake. Jake's teacher defends Jake and says, I don't feel comfortable talking about my students to you as a police officer, so we're not going to do that. But I will schedule a meeting between Lexi's parents and, well, Jake doesn't have parents anymore. His mom died in a car accident. The dad was electrocuted in the first episode. So she's going to schedule an appointment with Lexi's parents and Jake's uncle and his uncle's wife. Uncle, who is a twin to Jake's father. Another duality moment here. And the duality of having two families sit together. We have the family of the bully, who is Lexi, and the family of the person bullied, who is Jake. So Jake's teacher sees Jake outside and says to him, what do you think if we do this meeting to talk it out? I've seen what happened. I've seen what Lexi has done. But Jake seems distraught. He's like, I gotta go. His phone keeps popping off. Notifications or something. And we're thinking, what is happening? Why does he have to run off? So to kind of run off, he says, I gotta meet my friends. We know he doesn't really have friends. So what is Jake really up to? But anyway, to end the conversation with the teacher, he says, okay, yeah. It's a great idea. Let my uncle meet up with Lexi's family. Sure, let's do that. I gotta go. And the teacher thinks, oh, well, that was easy. That's great. Before he runs off and before he talks to the teacher, he does meet Devon in the hallway of the school, and Devon wants to help him. Or so we think. So Devon says, hey, do you want to talk? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Jake is like, I don't really have time. I gotta go. Jake wants to go. Devon wants to help him. He's like, how is it with Lexi? What Lexi did was terrible. And Jake says, yeah, no, but I'm fine with Lexi. I'm fine with Lexi. I'm totally fine. He keeps repeating that he's fine with Lexi when we know he's not. And Chucky wants Jake to kill Lexi. And I'm like, why is Devon pressing that point? Let him be. So anyway, Devon does let him go. We see Devon, as Jake is leaving, Devon is kind of putting his hand in a pocket, but we don't know what's going on with that pocket just yet. Jake is now off. He encounters the teacher. He tells her, yeah, the meeting is fine. And he's running towards a park or a wooded area of the city where Lexi is jogging alone. Jake has a knife. You see where we're going here. Lexi puts her hoodie on as she's jogging. Music is playing. Lexi is the DJ of this TV show. All of the music that we have as soundtrack is always her creating the playlists. She always keeps repeating in every episode, did you like my playlist? Did you like my playlist? So we're hearing Lexi's playlist as she's jogging. She puts a hoodie on so we don't see her face anymore. She's running. Somehow, I don't know how, Jake is tracking her phone. How is he tracking her phone? I don't know, but he sees where she is. So he runs to the spot where she's going to be. And he, with his knife, jumps out. And this is where things get really dark. Like this episode, I mean, it was already dark enough from the get-go, but it's getting really dark in this episode. He jumps out and he's about to stab her. At that point, the hooded person turns around. Turns out it's Jake's cousin. It's Junior Wheeler. Junior turns around and says, you freak, why are you following me? You creep, stop following me. Jake hides his knife behind his back as if Junior didn't see the knife, but apparently Junior didn't see the knife. So he yells at him and runs off. Jake is shocked because he was tracking the phone, but it wasn't Lexi. But we do see Lexi jogging as well. So in the next kind of moment, we see Lexi is on her lawn in front of her home with the same hoodie that Junior has. Junior runs up to her. Junior is wearing her same hoodie. She finished jogging right before Junior. Junior arrived after her. They're wearing the same attire. Super bizarre, but they are. And he hands her her phone and says, here, I found this. Thank you. She says, did you like my playlist? So, and she thanks him for having her phone, for having given her back her phone. So now we know why Jake made the mistake. Jake didn't make a mistake. He was tracking the right phone. It's just that Junior had Lexi's phone. Junior tells Lexi, hey, Lexi, I think what you're doing to Jake is terrible and you got to apologize. And she's still being a bitch about it, doesn't want to apologize, and calls it a day. Goes back to her house where her mom and dad are super upset because Lexi's little sister, who we know is totally in love with Chucky, she's like having a super tangent fit on the floor saying, I want Chucky, I want Chucky. They're trying to give her, it seems like she's autistic or something on the spectrum. The kid is not fully there. But she's crying because, well, none of the toys they're giving her works. She wants Chucky. She misses Chucky. So the parents say to Lexi, hey, Lexi, could you get her Chucky? This is a problem because Lexi knows she has to talk to Jake if she wants Chucky. In the meanwhile, Jake is back at his uncle's house in the garage, and I do not know why, for the love of me, Jake's uncle has a garage full of weapons. I mean, they look like machetes, scythes, things to cut grass, to chop wood. I mean, these are utensils you use in gardening, but they're also like super new and clean and super scary. Like we're talking hardcore metal blades everywhere. And he's kind of like trying to figure out how to stab her, which weapon to use. I mean, it's insane. Like it's going really dark, you guys, at this point, even though cinematography is still amazing, impeccable. We still have that gorgeous golden light in this city because it's, you know, it's that October autumn light. It's just amazing. We're all deliciously enjoying it. So there's no shadows anywhere. There's no darkness really. Everything is fully lit, just like Stanley Kubrick did in The Shining. He didn't want us to see any shadows. He wanted a horror movie to play out in plain day. And that's what's happening in Chucky. So it's plain day. He's in the garage. The garage is in a spooky, dirty, dark garage. No, the door. Oh, this is also super stupid of Jake. But anyway, he left the whole door, everything open. The garage is completely open. Light is coming through. There's no darkness. The walls are clean. All of these weapons are clean. And of course, he's kind of like moving, stabbing in the air. And that moment, Lexi comes from behind him and came to apologize, but kind of doesn't feel the apology. And then Jake says, you're not really feeling the apology. And then she says, no, I'm really apologizing, but now you got to do something for me in return. He's like, oh, that's your apology? He's like, okay, what do you want me to do in return? And she says, I want Chucky. And he's like, no way, you can't have Chucky, because he knows that this little fella is a killer. Which makes me believe if he doesn't want to give her Chucky, that means he's not a killer because he knows Chucky would kill her. So why would he want to give her Chucky? So this is proof to me that Jake, he can't do it. He's not a killer in his heart. So she leaves. He says no. She leaves super angry. We have a scene with Devon, Jake's love interest or flirt, at home. His mom, who's the police officer in charge of all of these investigations, she hears, which is kind of bizarre because we think that she hears the audio that Devon is listening to in his bedroom, when in fact Devon has earphones on or headphones on. So I'm not so sure if she heard what Devon was listening to or if she was just curious to go into his room because he was too silent. Either way, what we hear is what's important. What we hear is the conversation that Devon had with Jake in high school, in the hallway. Remember when he was asking him about Lexi and Jake said, no, we're fine. Listen, yeah, Lexi did dress up like my dying father, but we're fine. So he's listening to that conversation that they had in the hallway, which means he recorded him secretly. Devon is up to something. Is that something good or not? I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know, because it's super sketchy. So anyway, his mom comes in and says, hey, Jake is involved in some sketchy stuff. Death seems to follow him. I don't want you to see Jake anymore. Devon says, no, Mom. First of all, knock when you come into my room. You didn't even knock. What about privacy? She's like, my roof, my rules. She's such a police mom. Terrible. Devon kind of says, yeah, fine. But it's as if he told her like, yeah, whatever, girl, bye. And he goes back to listening to his stuff as she's leaving. But he did tell her before she left, he's like, I have proof. He's like, I'm working on it. I'm collecting evidence and proof that Jake is not a killer. So then I started thinking maybe he recorded Jake because he's collecting evidence to protect Jake in case the police were to come after Jake. In the meanwhile, Jake is back at home and Chucky's kind of disappointed with him. What did I write here? So, Chucky is upset with Jake because Jake did not want to kill Lexi when he had the opportunity. And where did I write? I have the exact quote. I wrote it down here. He said, oh, right. You weren't able to kill Lexi even in the garage. Well, so Chucky calls it completion anxiety. Well, he's kind of making fun of it, almost turning it into a sexual thing. But anyway, so he said, oh, that's just completion anxiety. We can deal with that. Fine. Here I am again, me stepping in for you. I'm going to solve the situation without you. She wants Chucky. Let's give her Chucky. So Jake is like, oh gosh, no, really? Okay, so Jake hands the knife to Chucky. Chucky takes the knife. And Jake brings Chucky to Lexi's house. Now it gets even darker because as Chucky is delivered to Lexi's house, Lexi's little sister comes out and sees Chucky and is super happy and says, oh my God, Chucky. And she takes Chucky and Jake says, have fun. He leaves. Chucky is now in Lexi's home. Chucky is always with Lexi's little sister. Lexi's little sister's parents are observing how her little sister is behaving. She always has Chucky sitting next to her. She lifts Chucky up. Chucky says, I like to be hugged. And then she hugs Chucky. She puts him next to the ear. Chucky whispers to her and says, hey. And then she says, hey, Chucky wants to hug you too, Lexi. So Lexi is super creeped out, but she kind of takes Chucky and hugs him. We see Chucky's eyeballs behind Lexi. It's super creepy. She's hugging Chucky. Then Lexi's little sister comes down and hugs them as well. It's like so creepy because, he could go berserk at any second. So they're hugging. Creepy, creepy, creepy. You can imagine. The parents are leaving because they're going to the parent meeting or something, some other event they have at night Lexi's going to be alone at home. There's going to be another party. It's the post-Halloween party, but she has to take care of her little sister. So the little sister has to go to bed. However, all of Lexi's friends are arriving. The little sister sleeps with Chucky. Creepy little moment. The sister, Junior, arrived. Junior is together with Lexi putting the little sister to bed. The little sister says, "You got to sing to me for me to fall asleep." So she sings to her. "Don't be scared of the Reaper." Weird song to sing, but it was really a cool moment. Scary. Chucky is tucked in, not moving, next to the little sister. They tuck him in real good. When they leave, the sister is sleeping. Chucky is still awake, and he's like, "Damn, I'm really tucked in." So he takes the knife, cuts the sheets so he can get out from underneath the sheets, because he is little after all. That was a cute moment. And then he wakes up the little sister and says, "Hey, I'm going to go and kill your sister, Lexi. Want to come?" And the little girl says, "No, I'm sleepy. I want to sleep." And then we have this comedic moment of him saying, "Well, you snooze, you lose." So he goes to kill Lexi. Lexi is having a party in her house with all her friends from school, but because they're not supposed to be too loud, she gave everybody headphones. So they're all listening to her playlist on headphones, same song playing at the same time for everybody. So it's as if they were listening to it loud. We hear the song, right? But they're all kind of dancing in silence. It's super creepy to look at them dancing with headphones inside of this living room. But anyway, she kind of is flirting with that other kid, Oliver. Oliver wants to be with Lexi, but Lexi's together with Junior. Junior keeps an eye out for them because he sees that Oliver's flirting with Lexi. Lexi's flirting with Oliver, but Lexi always, when something important happens, she always goes back to Junior because she wants to be with Junior, obviously, more than with Oliver. But anyway, we see that Oliver wants Lexi. Anyway, Chucky is now thinking how to, in all of this environment where all these kids are in this house, how is he going to kill Lexi? So he waits for the right moment when she's alone. And it is her home. So she does move through the house. At one point, her little sister wakes up because Chucky left the bedroom. So the little sister wakes up and says, "Where's Chucky?" And she says, why aren't you asleep? Go back to bed. And she's like, "Where's Chucky?" So Lexi's now looking for Chucky. She goes from room to room. Chucky is going from room to room. He thinks he's following her. But what we don't know is that Oliver is looking for Lexi. So, and here again, duality happens. A switch, a little moment, in comedic timing when you think one person is one person, but there's somebody else instead. At this point, Chucky is in full killer mode. So because he's in killer mode, let's swap this. Here's the biggest duality. Let's swap this little honey face of a good guy to the killer Chucky. Now, of course, he's not scorched. This is Seed of Chucky. He doesn't look like this yet in the series. He's still totally intact. But we got the evil Chucky here. He's more ready for the killing. It's like fluff up your hair a little. All right, Chucky. So we got the killer Chucky on the loose. He is ready to kill. And he stabs somebody who he thinks is Lexi coming out of a room. And instead, it's not Lexi, it's Oliver. So he's on the top floor, on the staircase top floor. So we see from the top floor what's going downstairs in the living room, and all the kids are dancing downstairs. But because they have headphones on and they're all dancing, looking at each other, nobody looks up. But our camera is looking upwards. So we see the kids dancing, and then upwards you see Chucky stabbing this other kid. And this kid is shocked. Now he knows that Chucky is actually a killer doll. It's kind of bizarre. He could have escaped, but he didn't. He just kind of laid there and let Chucky kill him. It was a bit awkward. Could have been done better. But anyway, Chucky stabs him. Oliver is dead. So we got our first high school victim. And the party is still happening. Lexi wants to smoke a little joint. She isolates herself and goes into her room all alone. And that's when Chucky attacks. She throws her cigarette to the floor. The bedroom lights fire. She sees Chuck. She's high, so she's not so sure what is real, what is not real at this point, because she did smoke her joint in part. Not that that amount of joint really gets you already that high that you have hallucinations, but hey, to each their own, right? So she definitely sees him attack her. The room starts burning up. The fire starts spreading to the whole building. The kids are still dancing downstairs because they have headphones on. They don't hear anything going up upstairs. The fire starts exploding. We don't see what happens to Lexi. I think she still survived, but we are led to believe that she died. Chucky attacked her, jumped on her, started pulling her necklace off of her to strangulate her. He lost his knife in the process. He wanted to grab his knife again. In the meanwhile, the huge explosion happened in the bedroom. Fire spreading throughout the whole house. We do not know what's going to happen to the kids because we have a cut back to duality. We're back in the 60s. And finally, Chucky is going to give the final answer to Jake about how he became a serial killer. But before that happens, let me just go to my computer here. While this party is taking place, Jake knows that Chucky is at Lexi's house. He knows that he did something bad by giving Lexi Chucky. He knows that that night, somebody's gonna die. And he feels guilty. So what Jake does, hold on. Jake actually went to the cemetery. And he, if I can find it now, he was at the cemetery feeling guilty about what he did. And at the cemetery, we see the tombstone of his mother and his father who passed away just a couple of days prior. And on the tombstone, we have dates inscribed. What is fascinating is the date of birth of the mom is in July of 1978. I don't know if that was a reference somehow to John Carpenter's Halloween, because John Carpenter's Halloween was released in 1978. So I thought maybe that was an interesting kind of coincidence. Maybe because, you know, this show is kind of full of little homages and moments of Easter eggs, I want to say. So I'm just looking at the tombstone here. Mary Wheeler, born July 15th, 1978. That's Jake's mom. Died April 15th, 2015. So that date, beloved wife and mother, that date could be perhaps important. Maybe it is connected to another one of the Chucky movies. Maybe Mary Wheeler died in a car accident and it was Chucky's fault. I wouldn't, you know, it could be. That could be the reason. Okay. Then his father, who is a little bit older than Mary, his father was born a couple of years later. He was born September 1st, 1976. I don't think that date has any importance for us. However, because his brother twin is now Jake's new parent, we know that maybe that date is somehow important. Anyway, Jake is crying at the tombstones of both his parents. He feels super guilty for what he did. And then the camera pans out or zooms out, moves out, and we see that just a couple of plots further down is Charles Lee Ray's tombstone. And Charles Lee Ray's tombstone, interestingly enough, does not state when he was born. There is no birth date on it. It just says Charles Lee Ray died November 9th, 1988. 1988 is when Child's Play began, the first Chucky movie, when he passed his soul from his body to Chucky. So this whole tombstone moment is happening, and then we're finally back to our initial question, Jake asking Chucky, why did you become like this? Chucky says, and I quote, again, the duality of it all, we're back to the slashers of the 60s. The city is terrorized by some murderer, serial killer on the loose, killing everybody. And you best believe that night it was Charles Lee Ray's family's turn. The serial killer broke into their house and stabbed his father dead. Charles ran down the staircase and saw the killer stabbing the father. He didn't do much. He just kind of observed. He was very curious. At that point, the mother appears from behind him, rushes down the staircases, grabs Charles, sees what's going on, grabs Charles and runs up to the bedroom to hide. And here's another reference to Halloween, very 1978 Halloween moment when Laurie Strode hides in the closet, that kind of pull closet. And then Mikey arrives, opens the closet with his knife and goes in there. So that's exactly the same, slightly different, obviously, because now we don't have just one woman in there, but also Charles is with her. Her kid is with her. And of course, Charles is also kind of the young Michael Myers in a way, except he talks. But anyway, so he's hiding with his mother in the closet. The mother is holding him tight and Charles says, "I can't breathe, let me go." And she lets him go. The killer is up in the bedroom by now. He knows that they're in the closet. As he opens the door to the closet, he finds Charles inside the closet, the mother beside him, dead. Charles lifts up a little tiny knife and says, "Here, I helped you out." And the serial killer is impressed and he says, "I'm impressed." He takes the knife, cleans it off of his sleeve and says, "Always be careful to always cover your tracks." And the killer leaves him, doesn't kill Charles because the killer recognizes Charles as one of his own. And that's how we know. And this is at this point, Chucky, we hear Chucky's voice of today talking to Jake, and he says to him, "Some killers are made, but the best of us are born. Sometimes we just need a little push." And that's the end of the episode. There's all of that death, that darkness, and the duality that we were thinking constantly of having here. Chucky/Charles says, well, no, it's not like evil has to be created. You could just be born evil. You could just want it. You could just be it. And it is not true that everything that is evil became evil because something bad happened to them. So it's a very eye-opening moment. It is very brutal. It is very, very visceral, very raw. It leaves you kind of out of breath because it's as if there's no hope. It literally tells you there's no hope. Some people, there's just no hope. Unless your hope is towards evil, like hoping for them to be even more evil. But hoping for certain people to turn good, there's no hope. And that's how episode 3 ends. Very, very dark, very grim, super scary. It is nighttime by now. Jake is in the cemetery at night. The party happened at night. The explosion in Lexi's house and the fire and the stabbing happened at night. So I guess in episode 4, we're going to see the repercussions of all of that. I can only imagine the problems for Jake because Jake won't have an alibi. Jake was at the cemetery while the house was exploding. So Jake was not at home. Jake's uncle can't say that Jake was at home because he wasn't. Jake was alone at the cemetery while the house was exploding. So I'm sure there's going to be problems there. I'm sure the police are going to be questioning him. He won't have an alibi. I think Lexi survived. But let's see. Well, Oliver sure didn't. It's a big mess. So there you have it. Chucky, you are creating such stress. I'm loving the show, though. I cannot wait for the next episode. Let me know what you thought about episode 3 of season 1 of Chucky the series. Let me get to a couple of your comments. Everybody's enjoying. Oh, Ollie has been to a similar party like that. Everybody wants to trick or treat now because we are in Halloween season. All right, candy for everybody. Nature versus nature. That's a good one. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Jack says the same kind of duality is seen in the High Priestess tarot card. Hmm. Yeah, hey Debs, the show recap. Something is rotten, says Jack. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm loving the midweek live streams. Oh, great. I'm good. I'm enjoying them too very much. I mean, this was, you know, Halloween is this Sunday, you guys, so it's just a couple of days away. And I wonder, it would be really cool if they aired another episode of Chucky on Halloween. Oh, another thing that they did, which is super cool. Every episode, they have a different opening. So in the first episode, we had all the doll heads turning to form the text Chucky. In episode 2, we had pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns because it was the Halloween episode, and the pumpkins form the name Chucky. In this episode, we had all of the weapons, garden weapons, tools, scissors, hammers, daggers, swords, and fire, forming the word Chucky. So at the beginning of the episode, we already got basically a hint at everything that was going to happen in the episode. So I'm starting to think that the hints that Don Mancini throws at us for the title sequence, for the name of the show, for the Chucky name, depending on which parts form the name of Chucky at the beginning of every episode, is kind of a hint at what will be the main disturbing factor in that episode. So I'm really looking forward to, because now I'm starting to think like, how is he going to form the Chucky name next week? It's super cool. I mean, the show is full of Easter eggs. It's full of wonderful cinematography, great casting, great acting, great writing. It's just amazing. And Chucky looks great. The little bit of CGI they use also looks fine. Otherwise, he's being puppeteered most of the time. He just looks really good. And I would love to have a doll version of the series Chucky. And I wonder if they're going to make one. I mean, I'm sure they are, because this show is amazing. It would be great to get a little extra Chucky. What do you say? Yeah, he's like, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for walking. Chucky on TikTok, that would be hilarious, says Debbie. Oh my God, that is funny. That would be super funny. A TikTok profile for Chucky and for Tiffany and for Gwen. For Glenn or Glenda. Just says, no, Chucky is not a brainless TikTok star. Don't turn Chucky into TikTok, people. That's so fun. Chucky, you're better than TikTok, aren't you? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, never forget to never give up on Chucky love. Bye.